Welcome, dear listeners, to the State of Mind podcast for Spleinbaum. I'm your host, Henk Kok, and I am joined today by Micha Herold. Hello, Micha.
Hey, man. Glad to be here.
I'd like to start off with a shout out to our dear readers. Dear readers, yes, you have been reading this. To our dear listeners, most of all, El Driver, who called me out on the quality of the audio, so the audio should be much better now. Micha Herold, who has joined us today, who provided some excellent real-world questions. Matthias Lappe, who also provided some really good real-world questions. And Ingo Schachner, and everybody else who reached out to me. I'm humbled by the response we've got. And it's a joy to be doing another one, and we will be spending the next 30 to 40 minutes in very good mental health, laughing our way, and discussing the nice part of state of mind. So that's for the introduction. Any thoughts on that, my dear friend?
Yeah, well, when it comes to mental health, just speak for yourself, and we'll take it from there. I hope we're getting there. That's kind of the end goal of the entire mission.
I was promised mental health. I will not be leaving without it.
It's a guarantee.
Yeah.
Mental health or money back.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
man. I'm really curious to hear what you have to say about the practical use of this thing. Not so much the practical use, but how to actually do this. I was pretty much blown away by the last podcast you did on the state of mind. It sounded like something I could really use in my life and my creative career. But I'm having a hard time just wrapping my head around how to actually do this. As in, this is, first you do this, then you do this. I'm kind of the kind of cookbook guy who needs step-by-step explanations on how to do things. So those were basically the questions that I posted on the comments from your last podcast, and that's why you called me up on this. So I'm really curious to hear what you have to say about that.
Good. Let's start with the questions. I'm just going to read them out loud because we got quite a few ones, and I think I can just handle that one in one stroke. It is that simple, but at the same time, it's going to be a little different than you're expecting.
Okay.
And that reminds me, before we start, you might notice that at some point I start to speak slower and there's going to be long silences. And
I also noticed some drooling.
Yeah, that too. Oh, that's my mental health. That's not part of yours. The funny thing is that at some point, when you start to feel nice and you feel comfortable, your mind kind of slows down, and you start connecting with what's being said, and you start listening beyond just what's being said and beyond your experience. And so I found that the long silences just occur naturally for me, and I just enjoy sitting in the nice feeling. And so last time we had a lot of long silences, and I guess when you get that the first time, it feels a little uncomfortable. It's like there's nothing here, nobody's saying anything. But in reality, it's just a little time for your brain to process things or to just savor the moment. So that's about the long silences. And I will jump straight into the questions. So the questions that I have are these. What do I do when I gotta be creative and I'm on a deadline right now? Or another one is, I'm getting stressed out because I have a deadline. What can I do? There's another one. I'm not creative and I just stare at the screen hoping for an idea to hit me in the face. What's the first step? What's the first step? And there's two more. There's, how do I deal with the time during jobs, not knowing when the next job will come as a freelance artist? And finally, how to keep positive while seeing all the great work out there and not to start thinking that everybody's better than you. Um, my first thought was, okay, I get this. And you would think that you'd need a state change, right? You have an awkward feeling while this is happening. And your first reaction, or my first reaction, would be, what you just said, what can I do to improve this? That brings us to the state of mind thing. And before I dig into this, I'd like to share a couple of stories about animators who are functioning on a really high level, despite them feeling good or bad or regardless. And then I will return to these questions, and I'm writing this down because I am stellar at letting go of my thoughts, and so I usually tend to forget things. So, you probably heard of Jason Ryan, right?
Yes, of course.
Okay, great. And you might have heard of Richard Lico.
No, I can't. But maybe it's the way you pronounce the name. Maybe I would recognize it if I saw it in the usual Facebook format where it's written down instead of pronounced. Maybe then.
So
no.
The short answer is no. Okay, great. Let me ask you this. Is there anybody out there who you think is doing spectacular work and really enjoying it?
Do you mean animation related or just in general?
Well, it could be in general, but in this case, because we're talking about animators would be a bonus.
Well, there's a catch-22. I could tell you a few guys that do spectacular work, but I am not sure if they're necessarily happy with it. In general, I can say that whether they're doing spectacular work or mid-level or junior level work, there's rarely any. I mean, that's fine. You can do junior level work if you're just starting out. I mean, that's the natural thing. But no one is actually content with what they do. There's always that little bit they want to push it more. There's always the deadline that comes too soon.
Yeah.
Always the little bit of tracking, a little bit of stuff that you could do on top of it. A little bit you can push it more. So.
So the answer for you, I'm just gonna jump in here, is no. There is nobody you know that is like really doing really well with this.
Well, actually, maybe that's because you mentioned the name, but the one person that just is super happy when he's animating is Jason Ryan. I've watched him animate a couple of times in workshops and live in his webinar series that he did a while back. And this guy is just when he's animating. I mean, obviously he's superbly good, but the moment he picks up a pencil, he goes into this flow mode, and he's just happy. He's just doing spectacular work, and he's just enjoying it. I don't know if that is true for his professional work as well. I just don't know. I've only seen him doing his teaching stuff. But when he does that, this guy's in the flow. You can see it. I had him animate. It was actually the first time I met Jason was when Disney did this reel review thing at a conference where they would review the reels of animators, and Jason just couldn't wait to pick up a pencil and start animating and show everyone. Like, let's be done with this reel review stuff. I'm going to show you guys how to animate. And in that moment, all the lights kind of went on in his eyes, and he was just glowing and was just happy. So that was, I think, the only time I saw someone animate spectacularly well and be extremely happy with it at the same time.
Okay, great. So so in short, we found two guys, and you beautifully explained Jason Ryan, and I completely agree there. In fact, when he literally says, when I animate, I enter the zone. I'm just in Zen, and he's just totally relaxed, and you can see it, and it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. And the other guy who does this as well is Richard Lico. He's I think he's currently the lead animator for Bungie software, and he was the lead on Destiny, which is a really big game. And I had a class with him, and he is just like Jason Ryan, except he would be working crunch time, right? So he was very, 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 very busy. And he'd been in crunch for a long time, and at the side he was also teaching a class, which was our class. And our class would be during his morning. So in the morning, the first thing he'd do is like put on some clothes and then sit behind his computer completely wrecked from a lack of sleep. And he'd be tired, and he'd just be hating it for a little while. So he'd just be like, mornings suck, man. You recognize the feeling. It's not a pleasant experience whatsoever. And after a while, he'd be jolly, and he'd be animating, and he'd be making jokes, and he'd be in this free flow mode where his ideas would keep coming, and everything was funny, and he was basically in a really, really healthy state of mind. His psychological functioning was just 100%, just out of this world good.
How long would it take until he gets into that state?
Sometimes he'd just come in like that, and otherwise it would probably take him a minute or two.
Wow, that fast? Okay.
Yeah, I've never seen him like be grumpy for more than 5 minutes, and he'd pull the whole class with him. Everybody was having fun and laughing, and the work that was being done was spectacular. And there were guys there who just had their first kid, and they were working in a pizza store as a chef, and they'd be overworked, and they'd be doing fantastic work. So it was a blessing to be part of that class. And it opened my mind that it is possible, regardless of circumstances, to function on a really high level. And so I know how the state of mind thing works, but for me it's been a while since I figured it out for animation. And I think we both agree that it's very easy to get stuck in a lot of negativity.
Yes, it's not so much negativity because for me, when it comes to animating in particular, it's not so much the negativity about it, but just trying to enter the state of flow, because I know how incredibly powerful the state is, and it's just, for me, it's extremely difficult to get in there and then to stay there. It's actually, I was just this morning, I was doing a writing exercise, and I was just, for shits and giggles, it was just a stream of conscience writing where you write for half an hour in longhand. You just write everything that comes to your mind. You just keep going just to get the crap out of your mind. So the next one, when you start to sit down and work, all the crap's out of your mind, and kind of brought the garbage out by writing half an hour, and now you're getting to the good ideas. And one of the things that came to my mind was this flow thing, and I tried to list the last couple of times when I was actually in flow completely. It's this moment where you forget to eat. You after a while you realize your stomach is grumbling, and you actually really need to go to the toilet, and you didn't drink for like 3 hours, and you've been sitting for 4 and everything hurts, but you didn't even realize the time was flying by. And these moments are just extremely rare, and I hardly ever find them in animation, which is paradox, because that's when they would be the most powerful for me. And well, I'm animating most of the time anyway, so it would be really useful to have them when I'm doing that. So yeah, I got sidetracked. How did I end up here? Yeah. So yeah, that's the. It would be just amazing to get into that state like this, just switch it on and go there. There was
Okay.
I read about this mathematician or physicist who actually died doing math or physics because he was so into this thing that he starved himself to death. Not that I tried to do that, but just being able to get into such a zone would be amazing.
I would I would argue that in that case, okay, that's an interesting example, because I think in that case the system isn't working entirely as it's supposed to be. But it's a nice example. So what I take from what you just said is basically it's possible to do amazing work regardless of circumstances. And I have proof that this is true for those inclined to like that. There's been done a lot of research around this, and rather than talking a lot about this, I'm just going to point people to it. There was a TED Talk by Dan Gilbert in 2004. Currently it's amassed about 9 million views. It's absolutely insane. And it basically states there's no correlation between events and happiness. There's no correlation. And at first you might think that's horrible. But actually it's got a beautiful list of implications. Because it basically means that the outside world, right, how we feel, our deadlines, all the questions that I've been listing, it's not about that at all. So how does that work? There's a metaphor that says, could you stop rubbing the mic?
Oh shit!
Because
There's
it
a mic.
distracts me.
I was thinking it's the plus and minus on the headphones. I thought I was upping the volume instead. I was
Okay, good.
I was trying to Morse code you something. You didn't even understand it, did you?
Oh yeah, no, sorry, man. I didn't get it. So there's a concept that is a metaphor for this, and it's basically saying the inside-out nature of reality, meaning that happiness doesn't come from outside, it comes from within. And I'm sure a lot of people have heard this, and I certainly did. And it doesn't mean a damn thing when I'm animating, trying to get into the flow.
Exactly.
But we know intellectually that that actually that is true. The outside world has no influence on our happiness and has no influence on our ability to get in the flow. So how the hell does that work? That's what I want to talk about for the remainder of this talk. Just gonna sit there and think a little bit about it and create a bit of silence, if that's okay with you.
No, that's fine.
Good. I'll take a glass of tea, and I'm not going to ponder how to get there, but there is a
you're,
couple
you're
of
switching between like 3 or 4 different glasses. What on earth are you doing there? Like once it's a white cup, then it's a glass with some really weird liquid inside. That's another thing again.
The weird liquid is called it's tea. It's,
tea. Yeah. Yeah, it looks like tea. Definitely.
So what I'd like to talk about is levels of consciousness, and when you are feeling very low, you feel pretty insecure, the world looks pretty scary, and your problems look rather big, and you are inclined, or at least I am totally inclined, to make myself feel better. I'd go as far that I'd be ready to do anything to feel better, right? If I have to, I don't know, I can only think of horrible examples, but I'd probably do anything to get into the flow on a consistent basis, right? So if I'd have to, I don't know, run around the room for 3 times and do 10 push-ups and that'd get me in the flow, I'd be game for that. No problem.
The difficult thing is to know what actually triggers that stuff. What came to my mind was like, oh, okay, let's gotta get started with work. Let's have coffee first, because coffee always makes me feel a little bit happy. Maybe let's have a smoke. Maybe let's go outside and sit in the sun for 5 minutes, and then I'll be happy, and then I'll start. Those were the things that came to my mind.
exactly. So we start to create a. Oh, now I'm hearing myself. That's fascinating.
Yeah,
Oh, it's
it's
gone.
annoying, isn't
Okay.
it?
No, it's gone now. That's just the voices in my head. So when we're in a low state of mind, um, we look for a list to help us feel better, right? But however, and when we're in a really good state of mind, we're laughing, we're having fun. It wouldn't occur to us for a second to do anything to get out of that state because we're there and we're fine with it. Um, and the the irony of this whole state of mind subject is it works extremely well when you don't mess with it.
Okay, what does that mean?
It means that at any point when you do something other when you how do you say that? At any point if you do something that messes with your state of mind, you're trying to fix your state of mind, you're doing any activity to change your state of mind.
Whether my state of mind is positive or negative.
Exactly. Regardless. You are not supposed, I truly believe this, you are not supposed to mess with your state of mind. It's not your job.
Okay.
And when you're in a high state of mind, that makes complete sense because you're like, I'm happy, I'm dancing around the room, life is good, I have nothing to do with my level of state of mind, right?
Yes.
And it's only when we're feeling really bad that we get desperate to fix it. And I'm just going to go back to the fact that it's not your job. And actually, we had a discussion about this earlier where I said, right, the state of mind stuff is cool, but I don't want to tell people what to do unless I know that it works. So I've been animating for a couple of days, and I've been animating today and having a spectacularly difficult time with it. As in, Maya was being very, very picky, and I wanted to do like 30 frames, polished 30 frames, and I didn't even get to that. I'd just been fixing Maya all day. And I was wondering, how do I get into a better state of mind? I'm the master of this stuff. I should be able to do this. I got coaching. I've got read books.
Exactly. You got your own podcast about it, so.
Yeah, exactly. So I wouldn't be having this podcast if I didn't find a solution. And the solution is that it's not your job to fix it.
So what happened?
I heard about a guy, Garrett Kramer, who's one of the old guys of the state of mind stuff, and they call it 3 principles as well. And he wrote a book about it, and he basically tells the story of him trying to fix his thinking for years and years and years and failing to do so and feeling terrible. And at one point he thought, you know what, screw this. I'm just going to let go of my thinking of trying to fix it because I have a life to live and I have no more time to start fixing this. And when he did, he felt way, way better. And I have another example of this. My aunt, when she, bless her heart, was diagnosed with a terminal illness, at some point, I think she had suffered so much that she was just too tired of fixing her state of mind, and she completely let go. And at the time, I had no understanding of this at all, but she would be lovely. She would have perfect boundary control. She would state, this is what I can do, this is what I cannot do. I will not say goodbye to you because I cannot handle it. I do not like that. And she'd be making fun, she'd be having jokes, she'd be joking about, like, you're going to be at my funeral, right? And, like, I'd be sitting there, but, like, my heart would break in that moment. And it's only later that I see that she completely gave up on fixing her state of mind.
Yeah,
And
I can see that. And going back to your first example, in this day and age, there is such a huge industry in this entire be happy, fix your thinking kind of self-help industry, where it's almost unusual not to find a self-help book about this mind, not about this mind stuff, but just about be happy in general kind of stuff. I'm looking at my bookshelf right now, and there's plenty of those books there. And Yeah, it's one of those things you do in this day and age. You learn about your mind and you try to fix yourself so that you're happy.
Yeah.
But you're saying you don't fix yourself, and that leads me to the question. So what do you do? I'm feeling shitty. So what do? I do nothing,
Yeah.
and then what? Then I feel better.
Maybe.
What if not?
Um, so I had the same thing during this day, right? I was sitting behind my computer, and after 2 hours of messing with Maya and trying to feel better, I got pretty tired of it. And I thought this shouldn't be. I've done many things that I have enough reason to dislike, and that I do with great joy and feeling absolutely fantastic. And you could argue that is your natural state. And so I knew that my psychological functioning was not as good when I feel crappy, right?
Mhm.
And I basically thought of it in this morning. My solution to that, you're probably going to find your solution, was to just, okay, how bad do I feel right now? Well, mildly poor, mildly crappy. And I thought, okay, can I work like this? And I thought, can I like be okay with this and get to work? Can I like produce some work at least while feeling this? And I thought, well, we'll find out. I think I could handle this 8 hours a day. And so I'm just going to let it be, because I don't know what else to do. And I know there's nothing to do, but I also have like no other solution for this. And so I let go. And I actually, after a while, I found myself having fun. And so there is like, there's a really clear difference here on the level of your thinking, right? On the level of what's happening in your brain, there is nothing to fix. It's not your job. On the level of the real world, well, yeah, there's a lot of things to do, and that's where you can focus on. And so I don't mean to, like, to go back to the examples of excellent psychological functioning of Richard Leaco in the morning when he's feeling crappy. He basically states, oh boy, I'm feeling terrible today. Mornings suck. And then he gets to work. And it's almost like he accepts the feeling and then gets to work.
That's actually it kind of clicks with me. It makes sense in a way. You accept the feeling. Maybe this meddling thing, this trying to get into a better mindset before you actually start doing your work. It's like a dog chasing its own tail. You try to get a little bit happier by, I don't know, by watching a cartoon, and then it doesn't work, and then you get a little bit more pissed because it didn't work, and you just wasted 20 minutes watching a cartoon. So I'm just speaking from experience. I'm just trying to like re-engineer this backwards, and then you go for a coffee, and like, okay, if I'm gonna have a coffee with lots of sugar, I'm gonna feel great, and then you go back to your desk and try to animate with all the caffeine and your feet barely touching the ground because you're floating so much, and you're like, damn it, I'm still not feeling it, but I just wasted 15 minutes drinking the coffee and I'm vibrating because there was so much caffeine. And then you try the next thing and you kind of like permanently chase your own tail trying to fix your thinking instead of just sitting down and doing the work.
Yeah. I think that's a beautiful example. We had a private talk earlier, and you asked, like, what can I do to get into a better state of mind? And Matt has asked this as well, and Matt Pageya, the founder of Splinebomb. And I know I've certainly asked that question many times, like, what the hell can I do to get better? And the thing is, on the level of your thinking, there is not much to do, but you can do something that is deepening your understanding of how this stuff works. And so that's why I'm doing this podcast. I could say, just like, don't mess with your thinking, you'll be fine. But I find that having a discussion around it and talking about it helps people see it from many different ways and see it in other people with clear examples. And then you start to understand how your experience of life, because that's essentially what we're talking about, works. And that makes it easier to recover when you are like in a low or in a high state of mind. And your thinking becomes less scary, because after a while you think, okay, I'm feeling crappy today. If you think that reflects reality, if you truly believe that you need to do right now something right now, you will end up in a pretty bad place. And I've seen that personally with some really strong examples where people were so afraid of their thinking that they would do drugs, they would rob people, they would fight with each other. It was absolutely amazing what people will do to feel better, and it's done innocently. Like if you truly try to feel better and you think that you need to do something, you will do anything.
Yeah, that's a good point. You're constantly in the pursuit of happiness.
And you'll never get it, so you get, like, it speeds up, right?
Yeah. So you would say that you don't try to fix yourself, you just concentrate on the task at hand, and you just accept that you are feeling down for the moment, maybe even trying to ignore it, not to ignore it, but not to pay it any conscious attention.
There is really nothing you need to do based on that, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay, but say that we are indeed not able to change our state of mind, at least not legally. Well, we can't. We're feeling shitty right now, and we know that there's nothing we can do about it, which is something I can actually wrap my head around because it's basically true. So what if there is a deadline in 3 hours? What if I have a job interview and I just need to be at my best, and I just want to punch a puppy in the face because I'm feeling bad?
I love that question. So let's get to the part where we talk about high performance, creating kick-ass work, being at your very, very best, because these are the things that I'm truly interested in. It's nice to see how it works when you're down, so you know what not to do. But the things you just brought up is like, that's where the money is. That's where the goal is. Like, it's nice if you feel happy, but in the end, at least for me, I deeply care about creating great work, making deadlines, making a difference. And I think pretty much any artist out there worth their salt does feel like that. So let's take your example. Deadline in 3 hours. And you're feeling crappy. Well, there's nothing you need to do on your mental level, right? So the deadline is in 3 hours. What would serve you the best is having a great state of mind, so you're able to see clearly, right? But the only way to go there is to just get to work, take a first step. So what can you do, right? So we have, in 3 hours you need to have produced something, and if it's done really well, it will bring you lots of good stuff.
Well,
right?
Let's see it from the other way around. If you don't do something good, a lot of bad things will happen.
Okay, so that ties beautifully back to the nature of the inside. I always forget how to say that. The inside-out nature of reality, as in the outer world cannot make you happy. So essentially, what that means is that that deadline doesn't really affect you on a mental level unless you let it, unless you create it, like it's your creation.
I would agree with that in most of the cases, because the stress and the negative emotions that we carry around with ourselves are basically self-created. However, in the case of a deadline, I mean, that if I believe in it or not, it's going to happen.
Yeah, that's true. Right?
And who was it who said, "I love deadlines. I like the swooshing sound they make when they rush by." I don't see myself walking to my supervisor and saying, you know what, I just didn't feel it, didn't happen to me. And he said, no, man, it happened. There's the door.
Yeah, exactly. So out of all the outcomes, we'd actually like to get that deadline, or at least perform really well. That'd be nice, right?
Sure.
Okay.
Not get fired would be nice.
Yeah, I agree. And it'd be nice to do good work. and it'd be nice to create a difference and make things happen. So on the level of your thinking, there's nothing you need to do. So you don't need to go out for a smoke. There's no need to meditate. There is no need to get tea. However, on the level of the real world, there are many things you can do. And the funny part is, once you let go of your thinking, which is basically what I'm trying to say, your mind gets a chance to do its job, and it probably recovers pretty quickly. And in the case of Richard Leco, he does it in 2 minutes. And I'd even argue that you could, like, your next thought could be, could bring clarity.
So what you're saying is that, I'm just trying to picture this typical pre-deadline situation where you sit in front of your desk and mouse in the hand, and you go like, oh shit, I'm not gonna make it, oh shit, I'm not gonna make it, oh shit, I'm gonna be in trouble, oh no, Maya's crashing, there's crashing, oh no, I didn't save, oh my god, I'm gonna be in trouble. So I can totally see how just switching the stupid mind off completely is doing me a big favor, whether that leads to happiness or not.
No.
It's just getting this incessant negative voice out of the head that, it's like a foot that's on the brake while I'm trying to animate for the deadline.
Yeah. So what would happen if you get your foot off the brake?
First of all, I would have more mental power to concentrate on the job at hand. There would be less mumbling in the background and more concentration on the work itself. I guess if I were hunting for this flow state, the foot on the brake's definitely not gonna get me there. So I don't know if it means that I have a realistic chance of getting there, but I definitely do not have a chance if I'm in this negative state of mind and I let that inner voice talk. I don't know. I think it sounds pretty easy to say. I'll just stop thinking next time I'm in stress. It's probably going to be a whole different ball game when that situation actually comes up.
Yeah.
I imagine myself being in this hippie-like state where you're like, oh, come on, bros, no problems, deadlines, no stress, come on, just chill out and animate, enjoy the art.
Okay, so let me interrupt you right there. So you said a couple of things that were very true. Right, so the moment you let go of your thinking, when you're not messing with your state of mind and just simply accept it or leave it be, or you do something that is actually helpful. You focus on the work, which is great. Right? In that moment, the thing you can do, the thing you truly have control over is, okay, what can I do? I have 3 hours. You listen to your wisdom. Right? So I have 3 hours, what do I need? You get that. You make a plan, or you do whatever feels like you need to do. And you probably know a lot of things you can do. It's not going to guarantee that you're going to make it, but there's a lot of things that you can do to get the work done. And essentially, you're freeing up your mind to use its full mental power in being in the moment and getting to work, right? So that's one thing that would actually be a nice consequence of letting go of your thinking. And so at that point, you are shifting from a low state of mind where you're not performing as well into a high state of mind where actually you're not concerned with your thoughts, you're actually concerned with the work, which is what you get paid to do anyway, and which is what you care about. There's one thing that you said that I'd like to adjust, and that is, if I could shut down my mind or stop my mind. I know what you're trying to say. I wouldn't say you cannot stop your mind, right? The thoughts are going to come. They're going to be good. They're going to be bad. And a really nice metaphor is this. If you're in a high state of mind, you might get this. That is basically your clear state of mind is always there. It is only like the negative thoughts that stop you from seeing it. And there's truly no need to fix those negative states. Once you let them go, they they just pass by. And this is another word for this is called a free-flowing state, where just ideas come and go, and you're not like, oh, this is a bad thought. Ooh, this makes you uncomfortable. Or you're not like, this is a happy thought. This makes me comfortable. A clear example I can give of this, because in this case it's very much a mental game, right? The creation, you need your brain and you need to be aware of it. When I look to climbing, like people who are climbing mountains, you have a job. There is the mountain that needs to be climbed, and intuitively you don't mess with your state of mind. Your focus is on the work. It's like, do I have my rope ready? Yes, good. Do I have the route ready? Yes, good. Are my shoes properly fit? Yes, good. Is the mountain scalable? Probably. Is there anything else I need to do? So the whole focus is not on your mind. It is on the work. And ironically, that's the funny part of this state of mind talk, is that it's not about state of mind. Which sounds paradoxical, right?
I'm feeling like I'm in front of a big aha moment right now, but it's not. I'm like nanoseconds away from it. It's like a sneeze that's trying to come, but
quick, grab it before it's gone.
Don't push me.
You're not gonna get it, man. You don't need to. It'll come by itself.
No, but the climbing thing is a very good example. It's there's high stakes, so you do what needs to be done, and you don't worry about whether you switched off the coffee machine back home, or whether the stove is still on, or whether you remember to feed the cat before you left. You're just thinking about your boots, your rope, your hooks, and the goat spray. The things that are gonna save your life, or that are gonna screw up your life if you don't have them. I guess if animation were such a life or death situation, then because one of the key components of flow is high stakes, right? That's why extreme sports oftentimes depend on flow, not only to set new records, but to simply survive whatever they are doing. And high stakes and a proper challenge to skill ratio, where it's not too easy and it's not super difficult. It's just something that you could manage if you have your shit together. And the high stakes thing is something that you don't necessarily find when you fire up Maya in the morning. You don't click the icon and you go like, okay, do I have my rope? Do I have my hook? Do I have my bear spray? Do I have my gun? It's like, okay, here's Maya. I just hope I'm gonna be creative today.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Maybe have you experimented with setting some artificial danger scenarios for yourself, like punishments, something that would raise the stakes, actually?
It's funny that you mentioned that. I'd actually like to make a point. Up till so far, research has pointed to the fact that if you have a certain amount of skill and a certain amount of danger, you naturally enter the flow. And I'd argue that you could argue that animation is pretty tricky, because there's no real clear stakes, right? If you click the wrong thing or you move about like an idiot, you're not going to die, right? So there's no feedback there. My point is that it is as easy. It's I'd almost say state of like getting in the flow is your natural state. It's only when you're doing something very risky that you actually choose to get into the flow, and that's a pretty advanced subject. You are basically creating your mental states, and I don't know much about it, so I can't really dig into that, because I only see like a fraction of that. What I can tell you is this: that I want to tell you a short story before because we're gonna probably wrap up in about 5 or 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
there's a story, and it ties beautifully back into everything we talked about. And it's a story about a guy who is traveling alone in the snow, and he's in Alaska, and he's there by sled, and he's got a limited amount of food, and he's slowly running out, and he's looking for a certain path, and so he's not finding it, and he's already down on like on rations, and he's not sleeping so well because of it. Right? He needs to find that path, otherwise he's gonna die, and or run out of food and then die. Right? So the stakes are completely clear. And he starts sleeping worse and worse, and after 3 days he is pretty tired. And he remembers an old Indian saying that says, when you are like in a bad state, or when you're messed up, or when things go wrong, make a fire and sit down and wait. This is his wisdom coming up for him in that moment. And so he does that. He makes a fire. Somehow he managed to find wood and make a fire, and he sits down and just for a moment watches the flames, and he's just sitting there. And so basically he's not worried about his thinking. He knows that the best thing he can do right now in this moment for him is to sit down. And after a while he feels a little bit better, and he realizes that, okay, what can I do to find that path? Well, worrying about finding it is not helping. It's actually making things worse. That is an insight. It's a beautiful insight, and that is wisdom that comes up the moment when you're not too busy about your thinking. That is your mental power being at full capacity, saying, this, what you're doing, it's not needed, right? It's a gift. And so he realizes, okay, I can probably like pay better attention to the snow rather than worrying, because that would help me. And so these two insights, for some reason he feels way better after having these, because he knows he can do something. And he starts to walk again. He puts out the fire and he starts to walk again, and he notices like these black spots in the snow. And he knows that's where the ice is weak, so he walks around those and those and those. And after a while, he starts really enjoying himself, and he gets a nice feeling. And it's not running around laughing, but he's feeling pretty good. He's enjoying how beautiful the weather is, and the snow is really nice. And he gets a signal from his mind that we are currently thinking at full capacity, right? Because that's basically what feeling nice is. And so at some point he notices, like in the far off, in the corner of his eyes, and he sees like a dark spot that is not wet snow. So he knows that that's the path, and in that state it's obvious, and he's been missing it for the past few days because he's been caught up in his thinking. And the beauty of this story is that it's when he's in a really bad state, when he's not paying attention, he gets a warning signal from his mind. And the warning signal feels horrible, but it's merely a warning signal. It's like currently we are not at full mental capacity, and so we're missing things, right? We're missing spots in the snow, we are worrying at night, and we gotta stop this, because that's basically all that is feeling bad is.
That's actually a pretty awesome reframe, because what you're saying is that feeling shitty doesn't mean that the outside world, our situation, wherever we are right now, is actually bad. It just means that we're like going at a snail's pace. We're not at our full capacity. The warp reactor is like in the low red ranges, and we can bring it up. We can bring it to the green. We can go warp 10 point something, and we're just our system is shut down. So next time I'm feeling shitty, I'm gonna think, oh, that's not because I don't know, my fridge is empty, or that's not because I have a deadline looming, but it's just my body's warning sign that I need to up my game in a way.
Hmm. Yeah, or slow it down, basically.
Slow down the thinking, up the game. Whatever
Yeah,
metaphor,
it's
whatever
a metaphor,
works.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And so that brings me to what I actually wanted to talk about, but we we didn't get there.
Okay, good.
Well, no, we reached a terrible amount of ground, and we did a lot of great things. Um, so the thing that currently interests me the most is what is possible when we're in a great state of mind, and um, and how does that feel, and what does that look like? And so currently, I am doing like a lot of things in my life. Like this podcast is just one thing in my day, and animating is, and got another podcast later, and all these things I can handle with ease. It's effortless. Um, and so I'd like to talk, like for the last couple of minutes, unless you have something very urgent, about the nice feelings, the good signals, the hints that you're doing really well. Would that be okay with you?
Yeah, definitely. Sounds
So,
interesting.
yeah, this is for me, this is the juicy part. Like, I get the negative part and how to get out of there, or what not to do to get out of there. The fun part for me is like, what is possible when you are feeling amazing? When you truly are at your best and your mental, like your mind is so clear that you walk the street and everybody's like, who the hell is this guy? What is he thinking? They're like, and they're happy to see you, and you connect easier with people, and your work is going really well. And for example, I've been like dancing tango, and it's one of the areas where I naturally walk into a state of mind that's exceptionally good, and I've had a great time with it, and it's really fun. And tango is quite hard. It's quite difficult.
Yeah,
And it's
we should actually tell the listeners that right now we're on video and you are wearing your tango dress. It's this beautiful red dress with flowers, and it's beautiful. It's amazing. Okay, back to your
Amen.
tango story.
I like it.
Just selling you out here.
I love it. So there's a couple of things that you experience when you're feeling well and when you're in a high state of mind, basically. And so just to point that again, feeling good basically means that you are seeing things really clear, and you are not too focused on your thinking, and things that come up are like compassion. Like you're very compassionate for people who are not in a good state of mind, and it's easier when someone is really angry with you to just see that they are not seeing clearly in that moment. And so I've had that happen when someone was probably rightfully so, very angry with me, and I'd be curious, like, why are you angry? And well, I was laughing a little bit, which didn't help, but because to me it was really funny.
I think I remember that story. Yeah.
Let's not tell it to the public.
Yeah.
But it's a really interesting experience because you don't feel attacked in that moment. You're just like, I felt compassion for that person in that moment. Like, I'm truly sorry that this person has to go through to this, but it's also of their own making. And one of the really strong points that I wish I had gotten earlier was that just as you do not control your own state of mind, you most certainly do not control others people's state of mind.
Yeah, definitely.
And when you think you do, when you truly believe that you can change someone else's state of mind, to put it bluntly, you're fucked.
Yeah, it's quite a thought to wrap your head around, because we as humans, I mean, the one thing that everyone would say defines us is our possibility to think. And, well, not to think, but to consciously be aware of our thoughts. And basically what we've been talking about for the last hour is the fact that this thing is completely useless. Like, our entire life revolves around the thinking and how improve thinking and use thinking, and now we're saying that basically, just try to forget it and leave the thinking behind, and don't try to influence the thinking of others. Just do your thing.
Yeah. The guy who started this, there's like this wisdom has been around for like I don't know how long, and Zen Buddhism like points to it, and I think Christianity points to it, and I think many religions like try to point in this direction. The guy who had an experience who started this particular flavor of state of mind, Sydney Banks, basically would like talk to people and say, your thinking is not the problem, you don't need to do anything, you can go home now, you're done, it's good.
That's $500.
Well, no, I don't know. That'd be pretty cheap considering what you'd be getting. And the funny part is, the longer I see this, I see that like the state of mind thing, like there's a little bit of the world that where I'm thinking about things, and then you start seeing there's beyond our thoughts, there's just a moment, right? The past is an illusion, it's just in my thinking. The future is an illusion, it's in my thinking. Like there is just now, there is just right now. I'm sitting here holding a pen and I'm talking to you, or I'm not really actually talking to you. I'm talking to a plastic computer screen, and that's it. And once you start seeing beyond your thinking, you start experiencing reality, and you start seeing reality broader and broader, and you're more aware of what's happening. And so when you walk the street, you might not miss a friend who is walking by you because you're paying attention, or at least you're in a free-flowing mode and in a really high state of mind, and you stay there easier. And the nice part is life becomes less hard. And so to tie this back to the beginning questions, like what do I do when I'm on a deadline? What do I do when I feel others are better? What do I do when I need to be creative? Well, on your level of thinking, there's nothing to do. There is nothing to do. But there is stuff to do in real life, so get to it. And it's beautiful. And after a while, when you start like taking action from a really good understanding, knowing that the state of mind is not your job to mess with, you start doing more and more, and it becomes easier and easier, and your work starts getting better. And actually, I suspect that the people, the animators who are truly ridiculously good, like the James Baxters, the Milt Kahls, the Richard Lee Coes, the Jason Ryans, I am guessing that they're not messing with their state of mind, at least when they're animating, and they bring their full mental capacity, and so they learn quicker, they create better work, they connect deeper with it. And so they produce work that looks godlike almost.
I think it's also it's a kind of momentum thing. I think that if you have trust in your creativity and in the performance of your art, then you don't sit down with a negative or worrying mindset before you start. You sit down, you have a clear mind, and you know what needs to be done, and you know that you can do it. And that's something that I think many animators do not have when they sit down. Their first thought is, oh God, how am I going to handle that shot? Am I going to finish it in time? Am I going to blah, 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 blah? But
exactly.
If you're one of those ninjas, you're like, okay, man, I know what I'm doing. I've been doing this for years. Just going to go like the last 10,000 days. Just today I'm going to sit down, I'm going to do the shot. It's going to look good. Let's have fun. And that it never brings you into the dark side. It leaves you. It's like, I don't know. Let's take a non-artsy job, like I don't know, being a baker. Baker's probably gonna hate me for saying it's not artsy, but say you're a baker, you go to work and you're like, oh God, I just hope that today I can make the bread right, and I just hope that I form the buns in the right size. Just hope everything works. No, they just go to work and they start. And I can imagine that the ninja animators, the Da Vinci's of our time, they do the same thing. They just go there and say, okay, what needs to be done? Let's do this. And then the brain probably adds on top of that by just switching into a flow state or a creative state where the body and the hands do the things that needs to be done, and the brain goes like, oh, by the way, I have a suggestion. We can make this a little bit better here, and why don't we do this here and do this here? It kind of adds on top instead of stepping on the brake. It just is outside and it's watching and it's adding bits and pieces and cherries on top.
Yeah, exactly.
That would be my theory behind that.
I think you're near perfect. You see this like really well. There's just like you described a person who is who has this already, who has this deep trust, who has this experience.
The momentum is already built. The trust is there.
Yeah.
Which, of course, is just a mind thing. Why not decide to sit down tomorrow morning without fear, without doubt, without anxiety, and just, pretend, fake it till you make it.
Actually, I'm going to rain a little on your parade, but it's going to be very beautiful.
Okay, rain on my parade.
It's going to be beautiful rain. Because what I'm going to say is this. None of that is needed. None of that. None of the experience, none of the trust is needed in order to perform at your best. There's no need to decide it. There's no need to have years of experience. For you to operate at your maximum capacity is, I guess a metaphor would be to be okay with not knowing. So you sit down and you don't know if it's going to be good. And you're still able to get into a really good state. You don't know if this is the right thing to do. And you're still able to get into a really good state. You don't know if you're going to make the deadline, but you're still going to operate at maximum mental capacity simply because you are not focused on your thoughts. And the things you described as, I have years of experience, that is a thought. I know I can do this, that is a thought. Now, what you're pointing to, because you're actually making a really good point, is the feeling behind it. And the feeling is, I am going to be okay regardless of what happens. And that points back to no outside influence has any effect on how you mentally perform.
Would you say, I don't know, I'm probably hijacking this thing right now, but this question came up for me while you said that. Would you say that feeling and thinking, chicken and egg, which comes first?
Your thinking creates your feeling.
Okay, so if I don't bother thinking too much in the first place, that should take care of the bad feelings. Yeah, makes sense. I mean, I'm having bad feelings because I'm kind of talking myself. What? Okay.
I'm running out of battery. I'm just interrupting you here. Your thinking creates your feelings. So if you think insecure thoughts, you're going to feel bad. Mm-hmm. If you think happy thoughts, you're going to feel good. But the thing is, it's not your job to control your thinking. Your thinking merely points to the fact that you're not seeing things clearly, and so thought is essentially harmless.
Yes, makes sense.
Thought is harmless. It's not your job to control it. It's just to inform you we are currently not operating at mental capacity, and there might be a thing you need to change in the real world. Maybe you're sitting on a nail. Maybe you're ignoring the fact that your back hurts. Maybe you're ignoring the fact that you didn't eat for an hour, right? So there's a signal there, and that's all. Your thoughts aren't that scary, actually, and it's not your job to control it. And once you know that, once you truly feel that, and you don't need to figure this out right now, because you'll get an insight at some point and you'll start seeing it deeper. But once you start understanding that thoughts are neutral, they're not going to attack you. They're just saying we're not operating at mental capacity. You might need to change something. Then you are able to perform at your best and do amazing work, even if you don't know if you're going to succeed or not. Because whether you succeed or not is in the future, which is thought. And, well, I could go on.
Yeah, I think that's a whole new chapter. There's one last thing, and that be my closing remark at least, because I don't know if it has anything, if it ties into this concept at all, but I'd like to hear your thought on that. There was something that I read just recently, and it really resonated with me, not in terms of this thinking thing, but just in general. And there was I'm probably gonna name the wrong works, but I think it was the Bhagavad Gita, where there was this warrior and he's talking with Lord Krishna, and probably gonna get this all wrong quoted, but basically moral of the story was that this god was talking to this warrior, and the warrior was worried that they're going to win or if they're going to not win or whatever. And Krishna says, your only right is to the fight. You don't have a right to the outcome. You only have a right to the fight. And that's something that when I sit down and animate is something that I like to bring to the forefront of my mind, that I have a right to animate. I don't have a right to get a great shot, to get praise, to get a raise, to get a better job. I just have a right to animate. Would you say that's that ties into that concept, or is it different way of thinking about that?
I think it's on the money completely.
Huh. Krishna, the dude, knows what he's talking about, huh? Yeah, that's something that it just not just animation wise. It's something that I try to tell myself with many things. Being it starts with cooking a meal to working out, and you work out and you go like, oh man, I've been working out for a month. I'm still not feeling better. That's not the point. You have a right to the workout. You don't have a right to the result. If you let go of that, then the entire mindset is different. You approach things differently because there's no outcome. There's just the deed.
There's just a moment. Yeah. Man, this has been a pretty good discussion. I think we have enough material for the next podcast as well. To wrap this up. This is it. I think I'm just going to call it, man. Because we can keep talking here. I think we've reached a really nice state. And I'd like to thank you for your time, man. It's been
thanks. It's been a real pleasure being here.
Good.